All right, welcome to the RSP Film Room. It's been a while, I gotta say, and it's been even longer than that that I've had the pleasure to be able to hang out with SB Nation's Mark Schofield, who is obviously a regular here. And when I posted on Twitter last night that we were gonna do an RSP Film Room on Caleb Williams, people got excited about us firing this old thing up. And I think they probably think about the one we did about 7 years ago.
Like 7 years ago.
Where
I still remember that, just giggling for basically, an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
With Patrick Mahomes.
And I have a feeling we're going to have some giggles in this piece for sure on Caleb Williams. So what do you want to do? Do you want to talk about him a little bit before we get started? Or do you want to just get rolling with it?
I mean, I feel like at the outset we should just at least remind everybody that the life cycle of a draft quarterback is a curious one, because 10 months ago, 12 months ago, 13 months ago, it was Caleb Williams, QB1 with a bullet, right? This guy's the guy. He's generational. He's everything. But as we've seen throughout our journey of doing this, then they play their final season. Then people start to nitpick and poke and prod, and that's the life cycle of a quarterback draft prospect. And in Caleb's case, there have been also some other curious things, such as how much he loves the game and things like that, which is why I'm very excited that we're going to do this show, because I do believe there will be some giggling, and I do hope that people come away with an appreciation for Caleb Williams, the quarterback prospect, because I'm a huge fan of his. Like, I'm not done with my work, but he's a very good prospect.
I agree completely. I think unless something really changes, he's going to be probably far and away my number one prospect. But I would also say, if we were comparing him to past quarterbacks in the past 6 to 7 years, he might have the one of the lower floors of a highly graded prospect that you would see.
Right. I mean, I think it's fair to say that he is one of, if not the best QB prospect in this class, that there are things that he does extremely well, but there are certainly areas where he needs to improve. And yes, there's a scenario where it does not go well for him at the outset when he starts his NFL journey. I also think it's fair to remember that's the case for most quarterbacks.
Yes.
The more we do this, it's interesting. My son's in 7th grade, and in his science class, they're going down the nature versus nurture road. They're talking genetics and studying that, and that was the discussion at the dinner table on Monday night. And I kept, as I'm listening to him talk about it, thinking, yeah, it's like finding the right landing spot for a quarterback and making sure you get that right, because even the good ones, even Patrick Mahomes probably isn't Patrick Mahomes if he's a Chicago Bear come draft night. And so Caleb Williams is a very good prospect. He is extremely talented. But there are things that he needs to fix going forward. There are things he needs to develop and improve upon. And in some environments that might happen, in others, it might not.
Yeah, very true. Very true. So let's get rolling with it. We each came up with 8 plays, and we're just going to do what we normally do. If you're new to this, we just play the tape once through, then we stop and pick it apart and rewind stuff and go about it in the fashion that we do to analyze what we think about it. I laugh because I think I had about 20 clips that were like already from my research, and all 8 of the ones you had, I had, and I just
I will say at the outset, one of the big things on Caleb is pressure and how he responds to pressure. So in years past when we've done these, I've kind of just taken a sample of like different things I want. All 8 plays are him in the face of pressure, because I really want to dive into that, because I know that's going to be a big sticking point for a lot of people, and I kind of wanted to highlight like things that he does extremely well in the face of pressure and areas where he like desperately needs to improve when pressured. So I feel like you're in the same mind frame, the fact that you picked those 8 clips.
Absolutely. So I did that. I definitely think that is one of the most salient points you have to consider with him. And then I just wanted to look at things like layered throws, and finding simple or more not simplistic but simple solutions.
Yeah.
Because we're going to see a lot of complex stuff.
Oh yeah.
that no one could repeat.
Right,
like
right.
if you asked him to describe what his thinking was with that, he'd go, "I was just reacting to what I saw on the
There are
field."
a number of that scene from Major League, Willie Mays Hayes, great catch, don't ever do it again.
Yeah.
Like there's a number, and there were a number of moments on a similar winter afternoon, say 7 or 8 years ago, when we were doing this with
Yes.
Mahomes, and
Yeah.
the Mahomes comparisons. We could talk about that, whatever.
We'll get
I know
into
people
that.
want to go there, but
Yeah.
yeah,
We'll get into that because I think there are things that compare to Patrick Mahomes.
yes,
But I also think there are things that compare to Aaron Rodgers. I
yes,
also think there's things that compare to Jay Cutler, Drew Lock, and Jeff George. I
yeah,
think Jeff George, to me, is there's some strikingly similar things to Jeff George. And
yeah.
if you don't remember him, go look him up because he will make some of the most incredible throws you've ever seen. And then you look at him and go, what
Right.
the fuck was that? Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's a man that could literally throw a football through a brick wall.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and he was unbelievable. So, all right, here we go. First play, and the impression here that he makes, this first impression is a beautiful one.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure that this is one of the first clips that I pulled too. Like I recognized it right away. And the secondary reaction is the first thing that flashes to me because you have multiple points of pressure, but you have one right in your face right here.
Yeah,
And so the ability to make this first defender miss is huge. But and this is a big thing with Williams for me, and it's one of the things I do love about him. The willingness, the desire to want to fight in the pocket, to stay and fight. Our good mutual friend, we love him, Dan Hatman, talked about this when I first, got to know him a couple of years ago. The first thing you want to look for is a quarterback that wants to fight first in the pocket. And that's what you see here because he makes the first guy miss. A lot of quarterbacks at this point, now maybe part of it is the route concept because it sticks to the left side of the field for the most part.
yeah,
A lot of quarterbacks will be bailing to the right here. They'd see a lot of green grass. They'd see that initial pressure in their face, and they'd bail to the right where you would just have that one option. He stays and fights and gives himself the opportunity then once he starts to move to the left to hit this throw.
Yep. And I would say a good example of a player who doesn't do this that as well as Caleb Williams and has gaps with it would be Michael Pratt of Tulane, who I'm watching right now, who can escape the pocket a little bit, but does he exhaust his options and fighting to stay in the pocket? And I would argue that he and some other quarterbacks don't do that as well. And then the touch.
Yeah. I mean, and that's not an easy throw moving to your left like that.
Yeah.
And it sort of gets to your layered throw discussion.
Yeah.
Because you've got an underneath defender, you've got the sideline, you've got that defender there, you're going to have a safety coming over the top eventually here. Like, that's a lot to navigate. Now, the safety is obviously coming from depth, but still, you've got to get that down before he can get there, but you've got to get it over those underneath points. And technically, you have a fourth defender in the sideline.
Yeah. Watch it one more time through here, and then we'll take it to the red zone view. See if there's anything we want to add, but I don't think we do. I think you explained this one pretty darn well.
But like I said, it was one of the first plays that when I
Yeah.
was rewatching him, I was like, yeah, this is it.
Yeah.
I mean, to make that, and the other thing to highlight here, and this is a name that, we haven't talked yet, Andrew Luck.
Yeah.
One of the things I loved about Luck was what he did in the face of pressure with his offhand. That left hand's glued to the football.
Yes.
The ball carriage is what you want to see. A lot of quarterbacks, they pull that left hand off. Then when you get the Von Millers of the world, the Micah Parsons of the world, they're going to swat at that. They're going to look for that strip sack and change a game. He keeps that left hand glued, keeps the eyes downfield, and then the touch, just perfect.
And as dynamic as he is of a mover, his feet are under his shoulders an awful lot for someone who's making these types of moves.
Yeah.
I mean, this is efficient and dynamic movement, and oftentimes you only get one or the other.
Yeah, the fact that he has both is pretty impressive.
Yeah. All right, so moving forward.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had this one too.
Yep. This was yours. These are all yours. I gave you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean,
the placement on the move. I mean, moving to your left. Let's go back. Let's get back to where we're supposed to. All right, there we go. the placement on the move to the left. I mean, I think first 2 points of pressure once
Yep.
again, and knows to bail. But again, like you said, fighting the pocket, climbing through, and then finding a way. This is like Fran Tarkenton.
Yeah.
I mean, somebody compared him to Fran Tarkenton the other day, and I laughed. I said, "That's a great comparison. It's just not a current one."
And I think it's also important to keep in mind here. This was a 3-man rush.
Yeah.
They got 3 points of pressure on him, and he evaded them all. Now, there's a couple of things to mention. A, just the mere fact that he avoided 3 points of pressure. But they got pressure with 3, and that tells you that gives you some context as you work through Caleb Williams' entire season. UCLA got pressure with 3 here.
Yeah. And then you're looking at what are you going to create with this? Because this is one of those deals where a lot of players, once they have 8 dropped into coverage, they can't find anybody.
Right.
And here he does, finding the receiver near the crow here, sliding in. And, look, he places only where the receiver can get it. It's not pinpoint, but it's certainly a good throw.
Yeah, and I mean, if you were to rewind this clip back to the initial point of pressure and then tell the viewer he's going to complete a throw for 15 yards or so on a first down.
Yeah.
Right here, he's going to complete a throw for 15 yards on a first down. You'd say, where?
Yeah, exactly. No chance. No chance. They're like, oh, and there he is.
Yep.
And again, fundamentally, good job getting square and delivering that ball off the jump throw to your left. Pretty play.
Pretty play.
Yeah.
And again, the end zone angle, you're going to see the throw on the move to his left. And again, throwing on the move to your left, to your right, they're both hard. Like if you talk to some quarterback coaches, they will tell you as a right-handed quarterback, sometimes throwing to you while moving to your right is tougher. But I've always thought going to your left is tougher just because of the mechanics involved, because of what you have to do with your shoulders. But you see that point right there.
Yeah.
I mean, that's teaching tape.
Yeah. Beautiful. I mean, it's gorgeous. And like you said, once again, the hands. I think I've seen him drop the ball real low on certain occasions, but not very often. The fact that he's doing this against 3 points of pressure and returning, at least trying to return the ball to a position like this.
Yeah.
That's discipline.
Yeah.
And that's ingrained discipline.
Yeah.
Because you're not thinking, if you're thinking about that in the moment, let me put my hand back on the ball. If you're consciously thinking about that, you're not going to be able to do all the things he just did on this day.
You definitely watching him get the feel that he has honed his craft.
Yeah.
Like there's muscle memory here. Some of it's, could be cleaned up, but some of it's very good.
Yeah.
And the muscle memory you see from him on this play, I think, is impressive. Again, with that offhand, with the ball carriage, ball position, and while he's on the move, again, responded to 3 points of pressure in the pocket. A lot of quarterbacks, they might get past the first 2 and then it starts to break down. But for him to get past the 3 and still do this?
Yeah. I would argue this is kind of what Kyler Murray can do, but with a lot more control.
Yeah.
A lot
and
more
I think
control.
In terms of if you're just going to make the blanket one-to-one comparison, I think Kyler might be where you settle.
Yeah.
And it's just there is more control to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely more control. And I think that's important. And also there's hints of more efficiency than just what we just saw there. So, all right, moving forward, this is a laughable play.
Yeah.
I mean,
what?
Yeah. Or maybe the other one was. There's another one on here, but this is good too.
Yeah, there are a couple against Oregon that are kind of laughable.
Yeah. They
this is what I like about this is sometimes the answer to beating pressure, even for an athletic quarterback, come pre-snap with your head. And you get the motion here to empty. And he knows this is coming. He knows this 5-man pressure scheme is coming, but it's coming in a sense that off the edge there that he's going to feel and bail. And so he doesn't wait. And it gives himself a chance to extend this. This is an athletic quarterback beating pressure with his mind first.
Yep.
And then having the vision to see that outlet coming back.
Yeah.
Like, that's pretty special.
And that's processing of pre-snap, post-snap, and also taking what's on the whiteboard and extending it creatively. You know, it's one thing to ace the whiteboard from a standpoint of like understanding where things are.
Right.
But to execute it on the field, to go, you know what? I've got 2 points of pressure in this 5-man pressure coming from the left side, and I've got a deep safety here. So I know I've got a one-on-one basically in open field with a cushion with this player. To know that you're like, because you're thinking you throw into the blitz.
Yeah.
Well, this is just throwing into the blitz, but kind of extending it in a creative fashion. Because most people would say, well, throwing into blitz would be standing right here and throwing it right now. And certainly Tom Brady would have done that.
Right.
That's what you're looking at. So that's great. But what he also does is he's able to kind of turn that on its ear a little bit and say, I'm still throwing into the blitz, but I'm going to look downfield because I might have something a little bit more here. Let me work myself away and go, nope, it's not there. I remember that the blitz was from there, so let me go to the empty spot of where it is, and I can do that. So
this is Baker versus Chef. I mean, this is it right here. Because the Baker type of quarterbacks would just stand there and throw that right away.
Yeah.
You say, look, you know, I got this look. I got this pressure. I'm going to replace the blitz with the ball. I'll take that now.
Yeah.
The Chef type quarterbacks might say, okay, I've got that, but let me see if I get a little extra garlic on the other side of the field.
Exactly.
No, I don't?
No,
okay. I'll come back to that.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a scenario where suddenly somebody on the right side of the formation is wide open, he's given your offense a chance to hit that play.
Yeah.
But he still knows he can come back to what the Bakers, what the Cousins of the world might have thrown already.
There's times where you can add the garlic later. There's times where you can add it earlier. And the bakers might say, well, the recipe says to add the garlic now. And then somebody else might say, yeah, but if you're working with a certain level of heat, you know, if it's high heat like this, I don't want to add the garlic right now. It might burn, you know.
Nobody likes that.
Nobody likes that. Let me extend it a little bit longer, and you know, let me take the pan off the high heat because I didn't expect the heat to come that hot. And now it's cooled down a little bit. Here, let's add the garlic. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's see it from this angle, and we'll move on. And I think a lot of people see him as this wild child of a player.
Yeah.
And there are certainly moments like that.
There are moments, and a lot of it is just sort of similar to the discussion we had with Mahomes. Like, get him to just dial it back a bit.
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be, like, don't fully put the kid gloves on, but just get him to dial it back a bit. And I think this plays a good example of that.
Yes.
Because, look, what we've seen already, you might have expected him to just bail, right?
Yeah.
But this is more just creating space in the face of pressure with your feet.
Yeah.
This play reminded me in a way of when we had our show of Jared Goff.
Yeah.
And one of the things we liked about Goff we had the same sort of fight or flight discussion. There were moments when he was that boxer where it was just, I'm going to just create space.
Yeah.
That's what Williams does here.
Yeah.
Williams has the athleticism. In this route concept, if you look at the way it sort of unfolds, they're basically flooding the left side here. Like, look, you've got an out, and a crosser all going to the left side. He has the athleticism, the ability to just bail and roll left and try to create something. But he also knows with the way this is setting up in this pressure scheme, he's got that crosser working away from him with a lot of grass.
Yeah. Yeah. He's throwing the empty grass right here.
Yep.
And that sidearm to do it.
Yep.
You know, just that, you know, off the foot, leaning backwards, just whipping it.
Yep.
And pinpoint. I mean, that's laughable.
This is a silly throw.
Yeah, he makes these guys look like the Keystone Cops.
Yeah.
I mean, wow.
And if you think to, say, the last 8 weeks in the Jordan Love discussion, and he looks like Rodgers, he looks like Favre, he's got these fadeaway throws. Watch this throw.
Yeah. because this was Jordan Love pre-draft. Like the best of Jordan Love pre-draft was this.
Yep.
The maturity of decision making was what was completely absent from his game. But it's developed now, and look at this. Yeah. Totally a Jordan Love-esque type of play. Jordan Love, Mahomes, Jeff George. When I saw that, I thought, oh my God, that looks like Jeff George. But then the current version is Jordan Love for sure. Patrick Mahomes. Jay Cutler did this. Yeah. So, but what we're giving you is a range of players and a range of outcomes.
And some of those names had great careers.
Yes.
Some of them didn't.
Nope. But all of them were drafted in the first round.
Yeah.
And all of them were considered compellingly strong prospects.
Yes.
And I think that, well, maybe with the exception of Love, because it was a head scratcher for many in the community. But the NFL, obviously the Packers knew what they were doing.
And Packers seem to have got a system here that's working.
Yep. Oh, give them time to develop.
Give them time to develop somebody.
Yeah. Woo. Wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah.
Yeah. So moving forward.
All right. This is perhaps the most giggle-worthy throw in my mind. This is 4th and 1. They set it up where they're trying to run this little pop pass, and it's not there, so he does this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
really?
Yeah. And look how well he's able to set up and throw off of that spin.
Like, to spin away from pressure, see another free runner, set and throw, and then put it here.
Yeah. Let me put it to you in perspective, Mark. If you told somebody you were watching any other prospect in this class, and you said, if someone in Threads or Twitter or social media said, look, you know what he should have done right here instead of taking the sack? He should have spun to his left, planted before the oncoming defender on the left came, and just fire it to the front pylon.
Yeah.
And just, that would have been the play to make. Like, if you told that to anyone, 99.5 out of 100 people would respond to you and go, you're unrealistic.
Yeah.
That's how unrealistic of a play this is you would not ever recommend this to anyone to do.
No, absolutely not. Not in a million years. Like, when we get to the springtime and I'm coaching middle school quarterbacks, I am not showing this play.
No.
Like, no.
Because your kid's already trying it. Yeah.
They're doing it on Madden. They think it's going to translate. It doesn't always translate to the actual field.
It's gorgeous, though.
Yeah.
That's
that's just a silly throw. Yeah. And to have,
it's awareness of the field.
It's awareness, but it's just the pure arm talent here. Yeah. Like, to flip the hips around and to be able to make this throw. You're talking 35-yard line, right hash.
Yeah.
To the front corner of the end zone. So it's in just pure yardage, it's 35 yards. But Pythagoras would tell us this is like a 55-yard throw or more.
And I keep repeating this little aspect because people need to understand how precise and difficult this is. Yeah. This is a sign of someone who has drilled and drilled and drilled. The details matter. This is someone who's probably practiced this very slowly. Yep. Like, worked very slowly and got the feet just right, got the hips just right, made sure that, he may have worked at these different components slowly on a separate level and then was able to integrate it into something that he can do in real time. Because a lot of guys would not be able to make that quick little turn like that with the precision he did that sets up an accurate ball like that.
Yeah. All right, that's problem solving at a very high level.
Yeah, without a doubt.
This is problem solving at a very bad level.
Yeah, this is the worst game maybe of his career.
Yeah, and I wanted to end with 3 clips from this game. And this first one is a pick. And it comes down to it, I think you just didn't see it.
Yeah.
But this is the stuff that you're worried about. You're worried about him trying to do too much. You're worried about sort of that quicksand term that we've talked about before, where it's, you're trying to do too much, the mistakes are compounded, and then you make things worse by doing something like this. Like, you've got options.
Yeah.
Like, he's the internal clock is getting really sped up here in this game. And that's a concern I think you're going to have if you're, a team drafting him. It's, can we make sure we're in a position where this clock's not getting sped up? Can we make sure we've got guys that can protect? It's why I brought up that point from the UCLA game where they got pressure with 3. It's like, if you're going to have them behind an offensive line that's giving up pressure with 3, you're going to see plays like this sometimes when they bring more than just 3.
Yeah. And, you watch this and look, you get the corner blitz over here. And what's fascinating is that it's the backside safety who makes this play on this crosser.
Yeah.
Where are you going to expect Williams to see this backside safety coming downhill from that angle? No. But you are expecting him to understand that maybe in this situation where you're, at this point where you're going to throw the ball, let's see if we can see it better from this. Oops, went way too far there. From this angle, where, when he looks up here, that this is too crowded.
Yeah. And the other thing to highlight here, that throw against Oregon, this is almost the same route concept. And we talked about how some quarterbacks, when they were feeling a little bit more pressure, they might go to the left. They wouldn't hit that crosser working away from them. It's basically the same route concept. And now you see him force the throw. Whereas, again, you look, if he throws that crosser.
Yeah.
And so from me looking at this, I see, look, he's really sped up because we've seen him run this concept in the face of pressure and just head in there, float the crosser working away, and get a big play.
Well, let's look at the difference between the two, for instance, because one thing I do notice is that when we go to this particular play where he does that, I think this is the one, right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you see the 3
All right.
in that.
Now, you brought this up, and you can see there's a lot more space here with that pressure. And so defenses are going to look at that and say, okay, if we can get a tight pocket, because a lot of these plays are incredible, but if we can keep the pocket tight, and part of that is this is a really well drawn up blitz because you've got a very heavy side to the left, but you flash to him, cornerback on a running back coming through here, and then the linebacker for good measure here, but most of your men are on the left. Now you've got him thinking, I've got to go to my left where they've gotten the push, and now it's really tight, and now in tight quarters he's not seeing the field as well. And it'd be that way with almost any quarterback.
It's the tight pocket is how you defend Lamar, right? Or at least how people try to defend Lamar. Like, make it tight, make it tough for him to see outlets, make it tight for him to escape. Now, it's Lamar Jackson. He's pretty darn good at playing the quarterback position, friends.
Yeah. And he's good at being very tight and efficient with his movements. Whereas a guy like this is a run towards that area, and maybe
and it gets to the different mindset when he's comfortable and has a bit more space to work with. He can do the things that make us giggle, but when it's a bit more cloudy around him and tighter around him, as it would be for any quarterback, really, that's when you see the mistake. So it gets to the where would he be best in an environment to thrive?
Yeah, and that's a great question, and you're gonna. Because some of the things that they're going to want to teach him are, look, when a pocket's this crowded, throw the ball away.
Throw it to me.
Yeah.
Like, that's what my coach would always say.
Yeah.
If you got nothing else, throw it to me.
Yep. But to take a guy like him who's basically done the impossible a number of times, he doesn't believe that he has nothing. And you have to instill that belief in him. Anthony Richardson last year. You could hear Shane Steichen say, listen, early games, listen, just take the easy stuff sometimes. You don't have to do the impossible. And we saw him start to do that. And then we had that, to me, the most laughable moment of the season was watching Aaron Donald perplexed in the way that he had his head buried in Richardson's chest. And Richardson still completes a 40-something yard pass. Yeah. And Aaron Donald's thinking to himself, this is going to be a problem.
Yeah.
But
Aaron Donald had 2 of those games because he had one against Lamar too.
yeah,
Like there was a moment in that game in Baltimore where he had a free run and Lamar and Donald was just like, he felt like Rocky trying to catch the chicken.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. So certainly cloudy pockets and baiting him into the cloudy mess is really an area where, obviously not every team's going to be able to do that, but it is something that's going to be schematically, examined here. So, all right, the next one. And there's the quicksand moment again. Because he feels desperate to force it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because this is throw it out of bounds.
Yep.
And instead it's like, how do I stay in the middle of the field? This man's open. No, because you're not. And this is a common problem with college players.
Feeling that guy coming off.
Yeah, that peripheral defender who peels off.
Yep.
And that happens all the time. You think of Kenny Moore with the Colts. Kenny Moore is great at basically doing this type of thing, and he's just one of a couple dozen cornerbacks who can do that.
Yeah, and we've talked about this was an issue with Deshaun, like outside the numbers, like not seeing stuff all the time. Like quarterbacks coming out, they don't always see this, but it's something you have to learn. And sometimes it's like, you got to touch the stove and get burned a couple of times before you realize like not to touch it again.
Yeah, and at this age, these guys and level of experience, they often think, I got to make up for the last play.
Yeah. So I wanted to end with this because I think it's another part of the Caleb Williams discussion. They're down 31-13 with 9 minutes left in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And he's had these 2 bad throws.
Yep.
He's had these 2 quicksand moments. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yep. And I think it's a very worthwhile argument there, counselor. So look at that.
Yep.
Yeah,
I mean, and I think that sort of encapsulates what I like about him. It's multiple points of pressure in the pocket, but the initial idea is I'm going to stay and fight. I'm going to stay and fight. They make this pocket tight around me. I'm going to make it loose by creating some space with my feet, keeping my eyes downfield, and I'm going to throw a touchdown here. We're down by multiple scores, but I'm going to give us a chance to somehow, some way, potentially fight back in this game. This reminded me a lot of Dak at Mississippi State. And I've said before, I missed wildly on Dak, but one of the things I had in my notes that made me really rethink the position going forward when I started to revisit where I missed was he had a game against Alabama where he struggled and they lost. They were down multiple scores late in the fourth quarter, but he was still fighting to the very end. And I'm like, I had the notes, competitive toughness, huge plus, but I didn't give it enough weight. Yeah. And I learned from that moment. And I think this is one of those plays where it's like he's still fighting both in the pocket on a micro level and just in the game generally on a macro level. And it matters.
It matters a lot because a lot of what we see a lot of times, and this is going to be a very qualitative type of analysis, but a lot of times after you've thrown a pair of picks, really you've thrown 3 picks, in a game where they've used your strength against you, you oftentimes get reticent and they take you out of your game. Because it's not about the individual punches. It's about the collective weight of those punches.
Yes.
Changing your mindset and causing you to second guess how you play. And in this case, like you said so well, is that he doesn't change his mind. He's like, this is how I win. And I'm going to continue to work at it. And I'm going to tell you who he reminds me of. And it's not a football player. Well, it is. It's a great football player. But he was never in college or the NFL.
Oh, boy. I think I know where you're going.
Yeah, I think you do, too, because he's not far from your area.
Yeah.
And that's one Allen Iverson.
Yeah.
You watch Allen Iverson, if he became a quarterback, I think you would see you see him in the lane. Like he would dip in, dip back behind the lane, dip in, slide over to the left side and then throw the timely pass.
Yeah.
That's
a great comp. I like that.
Yeah, and I think Allen Iverson would have been. This is one aspect of Allen Iverson that the NFL would have said no way, no how back when Allen Iverson was
Right.
a potential quarterback, that they were like, yeah, you're not going to be able to win that way in college. Stick to basketball, kid, which he probably loved, but I know he loved football more.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now it's become more accepted. I do wonder what Allen Iverson would have been like,
Yeah.
So, but that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
And considering the weight of what you explained, even better.
No.
So now we're gonna get to my half of the tape. This first one is more to me a layered throw that I liked, and it's an efficient solution. I want to see, after seeing all the pyrotechnics that we saw.
Yeah.
I also want to see, can you just do the straight up simple, in comparison. And
Kurt Warner had a great post, I think, on Twitter this week where he talked about how, there was the shift from you have to be able to win just from the pocket to you have to be able to win outside the pocket. It's like you have to be able to do both.
Yes.
And Caleb Williams can do both.
Yeah.
This is an example of him winning from the pocket.
Yeah. 2 points of pressure really here. Third, if you want to talk about here, but, for him to step up. And then you've got your receiver. And I like that, again, he throws it back shoulder away from that coverage there. Now, is that intentional? You could make the argument maybe it isn't, but I think we've seen enough from him to say that's intentional.
Yeah, I think we can give him the benefit of the doubt, given some of the other throws you see him make on film where you get the sense he's trying to play something because of the leverage in the nearest defender. We can never know for sure, short of showing them this clip and asking him, and he might not even remember.
Yeah.
But I think he's shown over the body of work an ability to understand the nearest threat to his receiver and put the throw in an appropriate spot as a result of that.
Yeah, and when you see it from this perspective, more than the all-22 perspective, I think it shows up a little bit better because you really see how close that defender is. It looks further away when you see him begin to make that throw. So, yeah, all right. So, let's see what we got next here. Yeah.
That's a tough throw.
Yeah. Because you're looking at having to put this ball under the safety and over this flat defender.
Yeah.
And protect your receiver as much as you can.
And this is... It's a good reminder that a lot of times defenses are trying to get 3 over 2 or 4 over 3, but you've still got to find a way to beat that.
Yeah.
And he beats it with the throw. He beats it with the trajectory, the angle, the release, because they've got 3 over 2 here when they drop that defender off.
There's your 3. There's your 2.
And when you can change the number script like that, you're doing something good as a QB.
And doing it with pressure in your face, and that ain't a little man who's hitting you.
No,
and he's a free rusher at that point. There he is, 81. Yeah. So those are the plays, because you'll see a player like I'll argue Kyler Murray, as good as he can be, when 81 gets right here, he's not throwing that.
Yeah.
He may have already, when the pocket was tightening right here,
he might have bailed.
Let's see, where is it? About right here. He would have been bailing. All right. I love this play.
Yeah.
That's a Mahomes-like play.
Yeah.
With the whipping the sidearm and doing it between 2 defenders. You get the pressure up the middle, and then, waits till a couple of steps, slides away, resets, and then here you go. Here's your receiver working the cross. He waits for the second defender, knowing that he's got to be patient with the zone a little bit to make sure that this guy isn't going to undercut. And then whips that ball through and splits these 2 guys.
That's an incredible play.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's so much to love about it, but I think on a sort of raw level, just the velocity on this throw.
Yeah.
Like, if he takes anything off of this, that underneath defender lurking could potentially make a play.
Yeah.
But to get that kind of velocity with somebody, like if you think about the Chiefs Bills game from the other night when Allen tried to hit that throw in the end zone on that 2nd and 9 and he couldn't step into it. Like, you got to be able to sometimes make those throws. Josh Allen 9 times out of 10 makes a throw like that.
Yeah.
But this is impressive velocity.
Yeah.
And it's just a snap.
Yeah. Look at his hips, how he does it. It's like he's throwing a frisbee.
Yeah.
Like some of those like ultimate frisbee players or whatever,
Yeah.
where you just kind of turn the hips. The torque he gets on his hips to throw this is fantastic. And this is this is the type of thing you're not going to see on a pro day.
No.
Where people get elevated up the charts because of all these scripted throws, where Dan Marino would often say, listen, if I had a pro day, this is what I would want to see. Can you do this?
Right.
But then Dan Marino's probably set the bar being like, are you as good as me?
Right.
Not are you a good NFL quarterback?
Right. Marino sets a different standard.
Yeah, kind of like there's, I don't know. There's probably 10 people that we could even just name in the conversation without getting laughed out of the room.
Right.
So, yeah,
right.
What an incredible player. But yeah, it's a fantastic play. All right. So, another UCLA play here. And which one did I play here? Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Look at it one more time here. So they're bringing 4. And at this point, you'd like to see, hey, just check it down.
Yeah.
That might not be bad, but, he's not going to do that. And then there's also, all right, I see my receiver crossing here, and you don't see that underneath defender.
Yeah.
And it's just one of those deals where, he thinks he can muscle it in there, and he has to pay attention to that.
I think,
peripheral
in a sense, he wasn't expecting that curl hook defender to get such depth.
Yeah.
Because they're in quarters here. And I think he's just assuming that he's going to be more down on, say, like the 45 where that other guy is. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
But he's not. And it's that old refrain, like, don't assume.
Yep.
He assumes here.
Yep.
Gets burnt.
And this is a common quarterback error, is knowing where they are in theory on the field.
Yeah, it's the whiteboard versus green grass thing, right? Because on the whiteboard, you're expecting him to be down, say, near the 45.
Yep.
But because of this route, he's getting a little bit more depth.
Brandon Weeden was a great whiteboard quarterback and an awful green grass quarterback as a starter. And this is an example of, okay, well, this is where it can hurt you. You got to get a little confirmation. And it's tough because it's tough to say, here we are sitting here going, you got to get confirmation of going back across the field to throw the ball. But we
don't have Aaron Donalds of the world trying to knock us into the hospital while we opine from our comfy chairs.
You'd like me to make some tea before I do this? Really? Okay. So, it was a good play by the linebacker.
Yeah.
More than anything. But it is something that it's going to catch him, because defenders are going to be a little trickier. He's going to have to be aware. This is one of those things that, film study is probably going to get you. If you become a real student of the game, a Peyton Manning looks at this and goes, you know what? Say this was Ray Lewis, or Brian Urlacher. And he'd say, you know what? With most linebackers that I've studied, when they get depth, they stop at the 45.
Yeah, but they're not going to get there.
Yeah, but I know that these guys might get there, and I have to scout that individual better and know and process that. And that's what makes a player great, is not only being aware of that through film study, but then being able to remember it later, So, and I think that's where, this is probably more of a point of him being aware of personnel.
Right.
And what that next step is going to be for him or any quarterback.
Yeah.
because most of the quarterbacks aren't going to be able to get that. So we can move on. We don't need to see it from this angle. All right. Moving forward.
Oh, yeah, I remember this one.
Yeah. Now, I'm going to give you some context. Because this play, earlier in the game against Colorado, he had a safety blitz. And he screwed the pooch on it.
Yeah.
I don't remember what, I think he threw an interception or he got sacked. It was a bad outcome to the play. And on this play, later in the game, he learned from it. He recognized the safety blitz and threw and made the elegant, simple solution.
Yeah, and I think for the most part, he does a very good job at learning from mistakes. Not always, but this sort of sequence, I think, is a very good example because I remember the play from earlier in this game. And boundary blitz just takes the sort of easy, flip it out to the out route, replace the blitz with the ball, don't make the same mistake again.
Yep. And that's our thing. If you're going to talk about a strength of his game that I think is an underlying theme of this show, as we probably discovered, it's this play and the Notre Dame play in the red zone, which is that this guy doesn't get taken out of his game very often, and that his game may look wild and improvisational at times, but it is rooted in some very clear fundamentals.
Yeah.
And in addition to that, he doesn't, he's going to battle and work his way through and there is smarts and logic underpinning his game. This is a very good football player. Yeah. Yeah. See?
I mean, that's staying in the pocket right there.
Exactly.
I mean, he literally backpedaled Fauci style.
Yeah.
To his spot.
Yeah. And it's so quick thinking because I just love, one is you don't really see guys retreat very often. When you hear people say retreats from pressure, it's a bad thing. This was not a bad thing.
No.
Great climb, and he had to climb in a hurry. So he was out of control, backs his way out. Here's the defensive tackle, and he sees him coming clear. And it's funny because if you see him where he's looking, I think he's looking to the left.
Yeah.
And then as he gets back, he sees I think he feels the defender and also realize I'm leaning backwards. I probably can't fit any of the balls in here as good as I am. Let me go for the shorter route.
Yeah.
And knows where the guy is. And in an instant, he's
just a fun little play.
He's yeah.
And I like the retreat because it shows you that he knows how much space he has in the pocket.
Yeah.
He knows exactly where all the points of pressure are. He knows where all the pieces on the board are. Because sometimes you might try to do that and there's another defender there, but he knows that there isn't.
And this is tricky. Holy shit. I didn't think about this. But watch this. So as you're talking about this, retreat, steps forward. Where's the head? Number 15.
He knows he's done it.
He knows he's open. But he's like, I'm not going to stare his ass down. I'm going to turn my head temporarily the other direction. Now, he may truly be checking, but he knows that if I check there, that may keep the coverage softer as a byproduct of that, and then turns quickly.
And also, when you go back to the moment he releases it, watch that defender by the logo. Look where he's leaning.
Yeah.
See that? He's got that defender in the middle of the field, right on the hash mark there, leaning towards that side.
Yeah.
When we talk about how, or at least I like to try to say that like yardage after the catch is a quarterback stat, it's little things like this, right?
Yeah.
Because you get that guy leaning away. Maybe this corner falls.
Yeah.
Maybe this guy can't make the tackle. Now you've given your receiver an extra bit of space against that second defender after the catch.
I'd argue that's a great point. I'd argue you already did. Because watch what happens as he throws this ball. He's leaning this way and then has to make a second move. So he's already a little discombobulated and stumbling a bit as the receiver's addressing this ball. And I think that's enough to take him a little bit out of position. If the other if he doesn't
if
get
that guy doesn't make the tackle,
yeah. So I mean, it doesn't. the result didn't matter on as much on that, but the process was there. All right, so
And it's those little moments that will add up over the course of the season. Maybe not on that play, but you might get a
yeah,
big yardage after the catch play as a result later in the year.
yeah. And this is one of those, Mama told you just to throw it out of bounds.
Yeah.
All right. Here you are. This is a third. I believe this is a third down. And it is in the third quarter, and you're up by 20, and you're deep in your own area.
Yeah.
So for context with that, managing the game, understanding that, yes, I know you see him. I know you're supernatural, and you think that
you're up 20 in the third.
You're up 20 in the third. There's no need. Here's another reason why there's no need. Because college football stadiums suck. All right?
Yep.
You see that wall right there?
Yeah.
There's chairs right in front of it with chairs, and then there's people and wires and all sorts of shit here. This is a junkyard, okay?
Yeah.
There's a junkyard right off the playing field, and you're going to run full speed, make a jump throw with someone in position to basically knock you, like J.K. McKay, John McKay's, relative who somehow got onto the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and I once used to watch him on NFL films and laugh because they would show him getting hit and getting, his 168-pound body getting thrown in slapstick fashion somewhere. Yeah. Yeah. You could ruin your career over a third down in the third quarter.
When you're up 20.
Up 20. Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't do that. And I understand it's the competitive nature, competitive fire. He's a battler. I get all that. But let's look at it this way. I'm going to throw a little psychology at you this way. Okay? And this is probably too far a field, but I don't care. So it's like young people in relationships. If you get in a relationship and you find that you're a tendency to rescue people that you get into relationships with.
Yeah.
You're too codependent. You think that you're not really worth anything unless you are there to rescue them from bad. Early in your dating career, let's put it that way. Early in your dating, relationship, marriage career, you're going to try and solve problems to the point that you're solving situations that are just really impossible to solve.
Yeah.
And then you're going to get resentment out of that. And it's going to do more damage to you than good. When you start to realize that being a problem solver means that you're a capable human being, but maybe you should recognize situations where you shouldn't solve the problem.
Yeah.
And you learn that you don't have to do that to get the success you're looking for, and that the long game sometimes is to say no. The long game is sometimes to say, I'm not, these are things that I'm not going to do. Have some boundaries in your game. Like, he needs to develop some boundaries in the game. Then sometimes you take the little losses of I guess I'm not going to have that person in my life, or I'm not going to have that situation. And you actually wind up in more winning situations. And this is an example of someone who...
Yeah, I mean, sometimes in a relationship, the best fight is the one you don't start.
Exactly.
Like, I read an article years ago about how the most successful relationships, like partnerships, marriages, whatever, there are all these moments, the article called bids, right? There's that moment where your partner might say something like, is it your turn to take out the trash when you've done it 15 times in a row? Or shouldn't you be the one making dinner tonight when you've done it 10 times in a row? And in that moment, you can make the decision of, I'm going to fight about this.
Yeah.
Or you lay the cards down and say, you know what, I'll take the trash out. Or you know what, I'll make dinner. It's no big deal, because it's not worth doing it in that moment, because there's bigger stuff in the grand scheme of things. And this is that moment.
Yeah.
Right?
And on top of that, you learn that you don't change as a person so much to the level of you're always going to have, if you're a person who likes to argue and debate and take things on, and maybe you have a temper, you're always going to learn that you're always going to have those traits, but you learn how to refine them in the way that you just mentioned, to go, I don't lose control in this situation.
Right.
Or I may be nurturing as a person, but I'm not going to be a doormat. you know, and you have to, and I think for Caleb Williams, he's like, I'm a fighter, but I have to learn when to pull back.
Yeah. There are some fights that aren't worth fighting.
Yeah.
Up 20 in the third quarter on third down like this.
Yeah.
Is a fight not worth fighting.
Yeah. This is you getting into the relationship with that manic depressive who hasn't been diagnosed, who's been diagnosed, but hasn't really gotten any therapy, hasn't gotten any medication, and they're a raging alcoholic. And you know, and all that kind of thing. You're thinking, if I just stay with her, I can make this work. You know, that's that kind of scenario here. And as you get older, then you may meet someone who has some similar traits in a good way, but they've fixed their stuff. Or you may meet that person later and they're actually ready to be there. But that's the thing. Once he gets more refined, we would hope to see him stop this.
Yeah.
All right. So there's your self-help for the day. We've got cooking lessons on garlic.
Self-help. We've covered a lot here.
We have. You know, you don't need the view. You can just come hang out with us. There we go. And then, of course, this redonkulous play.
Yeah, I mean,
it's a pass interference call on the defense. It's dropped. But again, placement. It's not. It's like if we just showed you probably 12 plays, maybe not that many, 8 to 10 plays where placement is just ridiculously precise. It's not a coincidence.
No, they start to add up.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, one play scouting. You know, you can find a quarterback who can do anything for one play.
Yeah.
But we're now 8, 10, 12 plays deep where you're seeing the same pattern of putting a throw in the absolute perfect spot.
Yeah. This isn't us, the St. Louis Rams, scouting Alex Smith and having, I don't remember the name of the scout, lose his mind because they wanted him to watch a hit clip of 20 plays where maybe one play looked like this.
Right.
And the rest looked like completely different in a similar scenario.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we have in Caleb Williams, folks. Is, I mean, you're looking. I think he's clearly the top quarterback prospect in the draft. I can't speak for the other positions, but I would say because he's a quarterback, he's clearly the top prospect in this draft. And that's not
positional value.
I know that's a
reflection of the game.
Yeah, I know it's a news flash to most
of you. Right.
But how good is he? He's up there with Allen and Mahomes and guys that we see in terms of what his ceiling can be.
Right.
His ceiling can be that. His floor, if he winds up on a team that constantly pressures him, that expects him to make miracles, and defenses are able to continue to crowd the pocket and confuse him and make him speed up, and then he loses confidence, and he has some quirks with maybe how he reacts to that from a maturity standpoint, we could see a player who could regress. Because that's the most important thing to talk about with quarterback play, that there's so many variables. And when you get the shit beat out of you on a regular basis, no matter how good you looked before, you may not get back to that. Jay Cutler, second year, was a Pro Bowl player. The Broncos knew, as Ted Sundquist said, he knew. They knew he was still a work in progress. Josh McDaniels came in there and said, you suck, for about 10, 12 minutes on an initial phone call. And Cutler said, get me out of town. And the Bears said, we'll take him. He's a finished product. The Broncos said, yeah, here, you can have him then, even though we know he's not. And you see, Jay Cutler could have been a multi-time Pro Bowl quarterback. Do I think Caleb Williams is going to wind up in that situation? I sure hope not. I don't think so.
Right.
I'd bet against it, but I would have bet against it with Jay Cutler too. You know?
Yeah.
But
I mean, and that's sort of the underlying idea that, look, quarterback evaluation and development is not a perfect art. It's not a perfect science.
Yeah.
Teams get it wrong. I mean,
Mark, if I told you if I told you that Caleb Williams has, say, whoever has a first round pick, I don't remember who it is. Who is it?
Chicago's
got it. Yeah. So if Chicago's at 1, let's say the ownership, let's say the scouts are all like, say Justin Fields isn't there. Let's remove Justin Fields from the equation. And the scouts and the coach are like, oh yeah, Caleb Williams, absolutely, for sure. They bring in a new offensive coordinator because of what happened last year. And the new offensive coordinator says, nah, you know what? I'm a Drake May guy.
Yeah.
I really believe in Drake May, which is another discussion for another time. And then, you know what happens? The owner says, screw you. I'm from Washington. And I'm from Louisiana. And I think Jaden Daniels is going to be it. Jaden Daniels is what we need. He's a combination of Fields and Williams.
Yeah.
Okay. And for some reason he had business back in there, in Louisiana, and he's like, screw you, I'm taking Jaden Daniels. All right. Then after that happens, Caleb Williams winds up on another team, starts off well, and they get a new coach, and the coach wants to go with a completely different system and turns off Caleb Williams, and Williams is the guy that goes, I've been great. I don't know why anybody's freaking out about me and telling me I suck. I want out of here.
Right.
And now, but there's things he hasn't fixed with, how to maturely handle situations. I just described Jay Cutler.
Yep.
How likely is that to happen? Well, unlikely, but it's happened.
It's not zero.
It's not zero. And weird things happen. I mean, look at Josh McDaniels freaking out. How many times has he had an opportunity to be a complete freak out artist? I'm sorry, I'm banging on your Patriot former.
No,
Patriots
please
guy,
do. We deserve it after all these years.
Yeah, but he's he may be a great scheme guy, but he sucks dealing with people.
Josh McDaniels is a great offensive play caller and designer.
Yeah, that's it.
He's not a head coach.
Yeah, it's like asking an accountant who's great at doing forensic accounting,
right,
and then asking him to be a great leader.
Right.
Yeah, good luck with that, or managing people.
Some people are just better suited for different roles. I mean, I think there's a couple of coaches, offensive coordinators in this hiring cycle that are getting those head coach interviews that they too may be best suited to be offensive coordinators. Is
Josh McDaniel Dwight Schrute when he shot the gun in the office?
Yeah.
I think he's at that stage of Dwight Schrute-ness. You know, where maybe one day he'll get another chance where he doesn't shoot the gun, but he's shot the gun at least 2 or 3 times in his career.
A couple of times, yeah.
Yeah. So Dwight had a better shot than he does at managing something. Great stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like Caleb Williams a lot. Is he the perfect prospect? No. Are there things he needs to fix? Yes. Will there be some teams that might have other quarterbacks higher on the board? Absolutely. That's just sort of the nature of this business. But for me, again, barring the work that has yet to be done these next couple of weeks, I don't see somebody being graded higher than him for me.
Yeah, I'm in the same. It's not a huge gap maybe on my scoring, but I guess maybe my scoring does represent it as a fairly big gap. And there are some players who are intriguing in this class who I think can be good and could develop. But I don't see anyone with near the ceiling as Williams. And I think the floor, while it has some potential concerning points, it's a floor exposed by disaster. And there are some teams that can be disaster, but odds are against it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think there are some teams at the top of the draft where if he landed there, he'd be okay. There might be a team or two at the top of the draft where if he landed there, it'd be a disaster.
Is Chicago a disaster?
They have so much draft capital still.
Yeah.
That I think if they do indeed trade Fields, they'll get a fair return on that. It might not be a first, but I've heard a second.
Yeah.
You're already talking about how they have the 9th pick. Like, if you get a second rounder for Fields, you have picks 1 and 9. They don't have a second round pick right now, but that would fill in the gap. You could draft Caleb at 1, get one of the tackles at 9, get maybe some more offensive line help, or even maybe another receiver with that second round pick. You're off and running.
Yeah.
Like I think they can make it work. Now, Washington at 2. I know we're waiting on a head coach hire in there, but that's a one I'm a little bit more wary about, just generally speaking, not just Williams specific, but if they get the head coach hire right, the new general manager is obviously done a very good job with his previous stops and what he's been helped build in San Francisco. Maybe it could work. And then there's New England at 3. And if we're sitting here some night in April and I find myself pricing Caleb Williams Patriots jerseys because somehow he's landed in New England, I will be excited. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, no, without a doubt. So do you see any teams trying to trade up to get Caleb, like a massive type of situation where they, would be like an epic trade?
It's interesting. I wonder what the Vikings are going to do. They're sitting there at 11. They've got the Cousins decision handed over their heads. They've got a lot of holes, but where do they go? The Giants at 6, what do they do? They've got Daniel Jones, but is this time where they decide, look, we've got to figure out our guy? I don't know. I mean, there are teams that could make a run. A lot of it's going to get sort of figured out over the next couple of weeks, but the Minnesota Vikings are at 11 are one that sort of sticks out to me. I don't know what Denver does at 12.
Yeah.
The numbers are what they are with Russell Wilson, but it seems like that relationship is fractured. Is Jarrett Stidham going to be their long-term answer, or does Peyton decide, look, I got to go get my guy?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. A lot of unanswered questions left to go, but that's the fun part of the intrigue of the NFL draft cycle.
That's why we love it.
Yep. And Mark, in case anybody is, still under the rock, where can they find you?
Well, on Twitter, X at Mark Schofield, on Threads at Mark Schofield 3916, SBNation.com. That's where you can find me, buddy.
Well, cool.
Keep it easy.
Yeah, very much so. And if you like the show, if you like the work that we do here, I would suggest this is all in preparation for doing the rookie scouting portfolio, which is in its 19th year. You can find it at mattwaldman.com. Get about 900 pages of pure content.
It's always fantastic. I cannot endorse it or recommend it enough.
Well, I appreciate that, but you're biased because you did some work with me for years, so but I appreciate it nonetheless.
I still read it every year.
Hey,
helps me win some leagues.
Hey, so fantasy guy, that'll help you. If you're a draft guy, it'll help you too. And then if I got guys like Mark Schofield and Will Hewlett who check out the work that I do. Look up Will Hewlett if you don't know who he is. Brock Purdy and Anthony Richardson do.
Yep.
So, they're good examples of folks who like this work. You can find it at mattwaldman.com, $21.95. Pre-draft, post-draft. And I also do some projections and rankings that are available for a separate price. You can learn more about that there. And thanks for checking this out. Hopefully, I'll be able to get Mark again, and maybe
I'll be back. I'll be back before you know it.
Yeah, maybe Drake May. That
might
be a fun one.
I would absolutely love to do that because there are a lot of Patriots fans that are worried that would be Mac Jones 2.0.
Well, I think we'll have fun.
I think it's worth a discussion.
I think it's definitely worth a discussion. So thanks again, everyone. Have a good week.